everyone. It has been quite a couple of weeks here, especially as far as the gardens go. Everything is just bursting. It's that time of year every year where I have to just accept to let some things go because I can't take care of it all. The tomatoes have tomato blight, and the cucumbers have mildew, and I noticed that it's those things that I'm just not as interested in that I let go, that I don't take as much care of. Like, there are certain things that I'm harvesting almost every day, like my coreopsis flowers and the butterfly pea flowers. Almost every day I'll get a bunch of these, and I love them. And I'm putting a lot of dye and herbal material aside, but the green beans and the cucumbers and the tomatoes, they're just piling up on the counter, and nobody's eating them, or we can't eat them fast enough, and I don't have the time to can them, and so they end up just going. I may not grow them next year. I say that every year, and then I plant one or two, and then I end up dealing with it at the end of the summer, but I can so easily go and get them from the farmer's market. Super tasty local tomatoes grown by local farmers, so there's like no reason for me to put my time and energy into it. So that's it. I'm not growing cucumbers, tomatoes, and green beans next year. The green beans, it's fine because those can just dry and I can can them later or put them in the pantry or can them as beans. Just not the long beans, but the actual inside beans, the seeds, I guess. But the tomatoes and cucumbers, they're just going. But these butterfly pea flowers, they're tropical. It's Clitoria tornatia. I'll put the name below. These are the double flowering ones, so that I'll come closer and show you in a sec. They're so pretty, and they grow really well in the heat. In July and August, they really start taking off, and they've been really easy to grow. I score the seeds and soak them overnight in water, and then I plant them, and they grow really well, but they don't like cold weather at all. So I don't really see them take off more than a couple inches of growth until July, and they've really started growing. But they make such beautiful coloring, like food coloring. The people use them, traditionally I think it's used for coloring rice, and I might do that this evening. You put them in the cooking water and it colors the rice blue, so you get blue water. And tea, it's a really nice herbal tea. It's not one that I know very well, but if you look up butterfly pea flower, or the scientific name that I have posted below because I can't remember it, you'll find lots of information about the medical benefits of this flower as a tea. And it's tasty. It's not a strong flavor. It's light. It does well, I feel like, with ecoprinting if you use the whole flower, because it's so much color that even if it fades a little, it's still a deep blue pop of color. But with making a dye bath and dyeing in it, it does fade. But it still fades to a pretty blue color, so if you're okay with the fading, you can use it. Anyway, so here they are, a little closer.
Aren't they beautiful? Such a pretty flower to have in your garden. The pea vine is a bright green, so it brings a lot of color to the garden. It's this color, this bright green, and then the rest of it's this beautiful dark blue. And in my garden anyway, it has just taken care of itself. Once I put it in there and keep it weeded, it grows, up a trellis and puts out lots of flowers. So that might be a fun one for you guys to try if you're interested.
And these puppies are all going to go into my Excalibur food dehydrator, and I'll set it at 105 degrees, which is as low as it will go. That way they don't get burnt, they keep their nutrients, and I will just put them in a mason jar and keep them in my pantry for tea. Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday morning, sometime in August, I think the 8th or 9th. You'd think at this point by now I would get good at checking the calendar to see what day it is before I start podcasting. But it's Wednesday, I know that much, because Toby's coming home today. He's been gone for 2 weeks now, hiking the John Muir Trail. I was hoping to get out here before the cicadas started screaming, but they're starting to get loud, so we'll see. I might move inside. So he got on the trail a day early, and he had left an extra day in his schedule just in case he needed it.
So he ended up finishing 2 days early and is flying home a little early. So I'm really excited to go pick him up and see all of his pictures and hear about his adventures. Occasionally he would get to the top of a high mountain. He was hiking somewhere between 8,000 and 11,000 feet. Hello, this is me from the future. I was actually wrong here. He was hiking up to 14,500 feet because the trail ends at Mount Whitney, which is the highest peak in the continental US. And sometimes he'd get to the top of a mountain and he'd be able to give me a call and touch base and show me some pictures of where he was, which was really cool. And I wanted to, first of all, thank my patrons on Patreon so much for your support. It has been really fun making videos for you and chatting with you over there on Patreon. I've put up a video on dyeing with fresh indigo, and I just did one on fermenting fresh indigo to create an indigo powder. And here's what I got. I'm excited to start my first vat with that and see what color, what depth of blue I can get with it. It was a fun process. It was a slightly stinky process, but it was a fun process. Yeah, so I did want to ask those of you who are patrons, and those of you who aren't, who are thinking about it, what kind of videos do you want to see as far as tutorials or any of the things that I've talked about that you might be interested in me explaining more in depth? If there's something specific, let me know below, or, you know, however you want to comment on Instagram or Ravelry, and I'll try to start working on some of those for the workshop and tutorial things for Patreon. Anyway, thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. Some of the things I've been doing over the past couple of weeks are preparing for a class. I told you a little about the class that I wanted to do last episode, called Prints and Pens, and it is eco-printing, natural dyeing with indigo, ink making, quill making, so I've been doing some prep for that. And I have made a couple of handmade quills. This one is with a pheasant feather, and this one is a goose feather, for writing, and some ink. And one super cool thing that I discovered is that, I'm sitting on my silk, ink companies will often sell their used bottles, so you can just get empty bottles for super cheap. So this is Poussière de Lune. I have no idea how to pronounce that. It looks like it was maybe a purple ink, but now it has aronia berry in it. This one has butterfly pea flower. This one has Dyer's coreopsis. So this is a nice orange. This one's a bluish, and this is a deep purple. And I've been having a lot of fun with aronia berry. It's also called chokeberry, and it's edible, but bitter and astringent, so it helps if you add a lot of sugar to it. And people make jams and pies and stuff like that out of it. It makes this really gorgeous purple, so I was doing some dyeing with it. And so being that it's a berry and it gets most of its color from the anthocyanins, which are blueberries and a lot of other blue and red berries get their colors, that color is generally not very light fast or wash fast. It usually washes out. But I've dyed things with aronia berry before that have lasted. I have a hat that I knit with it that's lasted 5 years so far through wear and wash, and has really not faded much at all. And I wonder if the fact that it's also extremely high in tannins, I think it's one of the most jam-packed berries with anthocyanins. So it's higher than all those other health berries on the market. It's extremely high, but it's also extremely high in tannins, and tannins help dyes bond. So maybe the combination of the two helps it stay a little more fast. But I had some extra sock blanks, so I stuck them in the dye, and I also threw in some yarn. This one I didn't have a label for. I'm pretty sure it's Romney. So this one was without alum, and then I put some alum in for this one. And this is a yarn that I got from Green Mountain Spinnery, and I know it has alpaca in it. I can't remember the name of it, but I'll put it down below. And that turned out really beautifully. And then I threw in some silks. And we got this lovely blue, purpley blue, and then this one. So I'm excited. Purple is a favorite color of mine, so having all this purple is really nice. The class that I've been working on for the ink And the quills, that is going to be at the end of September. It's the last weekend in September, and it's 2 days. Lunch is provided, full day. We're hoping to have a bonfire on Saturday night. So check out my website, and it describes the whole class, and it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. But because of the space I have out here on the homestead, it's going to be somewhat limited, 6 to 8 students maybe, and a nice intimate group so that it feels like you really get your questions answered, you can get to know one another, all of that. So check that out because it's going to be a lot of fun. Another thing that I've been playing with is ecoprinting, a new technique. So something that I've been wanting to try and I just haven't gotten around to is ecoprinting silk after wrapping it around a metal can and then simmering it. So that means you're getting the metals from the can coming out into the silk, and it's also in the water, and it gets mostly the iron to bond with the silk. So a friend of mine said, why don't you try something new, the last time I was hanging out with her, and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try that because that's on my list. And this is what I got. I really love the way it changed. This is a avocado dyed silk, and then I put the plants on it, and then I wrapped it around the metal can, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. This one is avocado and marigold dyed. Oop, this side, and I love that right there with the black walnut. It just makes me think of like sunshine or something, the rays of sunshine. So pretty. So I'm really happy about this. This was a fun one to play with. I'm going to be definitely doing some more of these. As far as knitting, because I've been doing so much dyeing and writing some classes, I've not had a ton of knitting time, but I have worked a good bit on the Good Day Tea by Annie Lupton. That's the main thing I'm knitting on right now. I have a shawl that I'm working on for making stories for their magazine that will come out in October. But I can't show you that one yet. I'll have to show you when it's published. But here is the front of the Good Day Tea. So it will go like this, and then basically the back is almost exactly the same, except it doesn't have the V cut. And I will seam up the sides and the shoulders, and then have a nice little cozy tee. This one is knit with Mold You Yarns January Whimsy Club. And she just announced her September Whimsy Club. And those are clubs where you are getting a one-of-a-kind kind of yarn. She can't mass produce it, so she gets a special yarn, and she always sends a treat from Wales, somewhere near her area. And it's a special to the time of year, how she dyes it. So September, maybe that will have lots of wildflowers or something. I'm not sure, but she just announced that one, and they're a lot of fun. The gray is one that I dyed and produced when I was running Fern Fiber, and it's fennel and bronze fennel and nettles, I believe. And I've just started on the back, so that's all I have so far. Hopefully I can get that done before the cold weather sets in and I can actually wear it. I'm still wanting to cast on the other t-shirt that I've gotten yarn for, but really want to make sure the shawl is done first because that has a timeline. But, oh, speaking of dyeing with nettles, I have been talking about harvesting nettles the last time on the podcast, and how it seems like it's just such an involved process. And I know that there's many different ways to do it, some ways producing a finer yarn than others. But I had gotten a note from a podcast viewer, and I'm not mentioning her name because I didn't ask her before I copied this so I could read it to you. But she said, I'd like to reply to what you said on your last podcast about processing nettle fiber. You're right. The way Berta Ford describes it in her book about nettles takes a long period of time, but it can be much faster with water retting. Cut the strips, strip the leaves off, take some kind of rectangular bin or vat, fill it with water, put the stalks in. I cut mine in 2 or 3 to fit the vat, and leave it for 5 to 10 days. So that sounds almost exactly like the process of extracting the color from indigo. You're basically like fermenting the plant material in the water, letting the enzymes kind of break down the outsides. It says it's not that difficult to know when it's ready. After 3 to 5 days, depending on your temperature, you'll feel the stalks get slimy. When you can rub off the fiber by gently moving your thumb. So when you just slide, so they just slide off. Then you wait another 2 days and it'll be ready. It'll be a slimy, stinky mess. Don't bother. Pull them gently out of the water all at once and leave them somewhere to dry. I first let them stand vertical so the water can drop off, and when they've dried, they should be almost white of color. Once completely dry, you can peel off the fibers, as you can see in YouTube videos of Alan Brown or Sally Pointer. Will you have beautiful fibers? No. I call flax beautiful fibers, but you've got nettle fiber. I love that. So it sounds much easier, and I may give it a try. I had 2 stands that I was watching that were nice and tall that my husband weed whacked by mistake. So I know there's a lot more in the forest that I can get, but we'll see. That's adding something else to the plate that I don't know that I have time for, but that stand is not going anywhere, so I know I can do it next year if I can't get to it this year. But thank you for your comments about the nettles. Let's see. I think there's only... Oh, I've started spinning. Fiber. I went to a women's spinning group. It doesn't have to be a women's spinning group. It just happens that there's all women there, and I know they'd love to get younger folks and men in there. But it's called Shepherds, Spinners, and Wannabes. Spinners, Shepherds, and Wannabes. Anyway, if you're local and you're interested, let me know, because it's a really sweet group and they meet up every month to get together and spin. And so I wanted something new on the wheel, so I picked out some fiber that I've been wanting to spin. It's 4.3 ounces of superwash targi, and I got it, I think, in a trade. I really don't remember where I got it from, but it's really beautiful, and I thought it'd be nice to give it a try, to try out maybe some fractal spinning. It's from a company called Generations Fiber, but I can't find them online anymore. But here is basically what it looks like. So it's turning out a really lovely blues, browns, whites. It's really pretty. It's going to be a while before I finish it, but I'll definitely show you when I'm done. It feels great. I don't remember that I've spun targi before. I really am enjoying the feel of it. It's spinning really nicely. Not as easily as the California Red that I spun just previously, that kind of spins itself. You just hold it and it just twists itself without having to do anything. This is a little more slippery, but it's superwash, so that might be why. It's also really fluffy and feels nice in my hands. So, one last thing I wanted to tell you about before we go is that I now have it set up that for the whole month of August until the 31st, all of my patterns are 20% off in my Ravelry store, every one of them. And all of the proceeds from the sales for the whole month of August are going to go to the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, and the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, the AFSP. So I decided to do that because there's just a lot of crap going on in the world right now, and I want to feel like I'm doing more, and it's something that I'm able to do at this point in my business. So if you can spread the word, that'd be amazing, because the more people buy patterns, the more money I give to these organizations. I'm not getting a cent of it. It's all going to them. Or if you buy the fleece flight, it goes to the Livestock Conservancy. That one is already promised to them. So it's 20% off, so a discount for August, and the rest of the money goes to good organizations who are trying to do good in this world. So I'd appreciate it if you spread the word and let people know about it. That would be amazing. Other than that, I think that's it. I'm heading up to Boston for a wedding this weekend for my beautiful cousin Catherine, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks. I hope you guys are doing well. Have an amazing couple of weeks. Get crafty, do some good things, be good to each other. Love you guys. Bye. It has been 50 days already since the box turtle, laid her eggs in our driveway. So I thought we'd go check on them. Apparently, in perfect conditions, they can potentially hatch as early as 50 days, but usually it's closer to 70. And I've heard they can even overwinter. So this is where we moved them, right over here. in this little enclosure. And there's their little spot. I'm not expecting them to hatch probably until 65 to 70 days. Just because, you know, they're in the wild. The temperatures are fluctuated and it'll take them a while to get out of their eggs. But we'll keep checking on them and I will keep you updated.
Hey, I heard you want to leave this place where we grew up. This old town, just put it all behind. Remember you.
Hey guys, I harvested a bunch of indigo leaves the other day. Just to dry them out for later use. I actually put some in the freezer too so I could try doing some fresh dyeing with the frozen leaves. I know they're not really fresh anymore if they're frozen, but to get a lighter blue color. And from the stems that were the most, that produced the biggest leaves and looked the healthiest, I stuck the stems, after stripping the leaves off, in some water because they root really easily. And then I can go back and put some more out. I don't know where I'm going to put them because my gardens are full, but I'll find a space and then hopefully get a little harvest from them. So let me show you this. So I put these in water like 3 days ago. Look at those roots. Isn't that crazy? They go nuts. They're even putting roots out where there's no water. You see that? So I'll stick these in the ground soon and have another little patch. Well, the birds found the sunflowers. There were some little yellow finch out there the other day. So I picked off as many as I could that looked like they were close to ready. They still need some time to dry out, but look at that color under there. You can see how black they are. This is going to make a really pretty pinky purple. I don't even know how to describe it. Look at this big one. So I'm just going to let these dry out as much as I can in here, and then I will pull the seeds out. And you can let the seeds dry in the air, or you can put them in the dehydrator. They work as well both ways, and you can still sprout them both ways as long as you dehydrate them at a low temperature. You don't want to put them at like 150 or 160. That heats things a little too high, but 105 is great, your low setting on your dehydrator. Yay! We'll have some Hopi sunflower seeds soon.
Gone, 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 gone. River's gonna cry when you're gone, gone.